My goodness, it is warm today for the beginning of March when I'm filming this. But I have left my window shut for you. That is love. So hello everyone, welcome back. If you have not been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. It's a series Sunday, so you kind of know what's coming. I finished the book Lazarus by Lars Kepler, which was book 7 of the Joona Linna series. Now if you remember correctly, I actually started with book 8, so I feel like I'm caught up at this point, but it does make me think of the things that I learnt in book 8 in a new light. I'm almost tempted to reread it. So the book I'll be reading after this will not be The Mirror Man. That was the first book I read of this series because I didn't realise. I just thought that looked like an interesting murder mystery book. And then it wasn't until I got to the end, it was just like, oh. But I greatly enjoyed reading up to Lazarus, and book 9 is The Spider, which I think is the last one. So yeah, Lazarus. This is the one that the TV series, which is in development, I think they plan on titling the TV series Lazarus. And at first I was just like, why are they calling it Lazarus when what I am reading about seems to be the plot of The Sandman? Now obviously The Sandman would not be a good title for this series, for obvious reasons. But now having read Lazarus, I think I kind of understand. It's just that The Sandman is the starting point, almost, for what happens in Lazarus. So, let's read the blurb. Sweden's most notorious serial killer, Ulrich Walter, was shot and killed years ago. The police moved on and managed to forget the darkness that had tainted their lives, and he's now come back from the dead. But now someone is leaving a trail of broken bodies across Sweden, and the clues all point to Walter. Detective Joona Linna is convinced his worst nightmare is becoming a reality. The man who tore apart his family has returned to finish the job. He doesn't just kill you, he buries your loved ones alive. When Joona's partner is taken and locked inside an underground coffin, he finds himself with an impossible choice: leave her to die or walk into the trap set by the only man he's ever feared. Admittedly, it was hard to read that blurb because I think there was some translation issues. I kind of stopped and started a little bit as I was reading it. So, of course, you won't be able to tell because of editing. But it is Swedish. Does it say at the beginning of this one who translated this one? This one was translated from the Swedish by Neil Smith. Claims to be on here 506 pages. I felt like this is probably the quickest I've read any of these books, because they are heavy books. They are very wordy. But you do know that every single word has been carefully chosen, even with a translation. Like, everything is relevant. Whereas the other books, I felt like they had kind of like plot A and plot B. This one was full on just plot A all the way through. At the beginning, it's interesting how, even though it's the Joona Linna series, a lot of the time you don't see Joona until a certain point in the book. Like, you can go through a lot and get a lot of information before you finally meet Joona. And he's absolutely terrified when these new murders start, and he's just like, somebody's either taken his playbook or he's come back. And everyone is convinced that Ulrich is dead. Yeah, Joona is seeing a woman called, is it Valeria, I think? Because his wife is dead now. Like, he managed to escape after the events. All the books are melding into one at this point in my head, where he took his family just out of the target line and allowed his wife a peaceful death as she was suffering from cancer. And then his daughter has moved away to Paris for college. So yeah, he's now in a relationship with Valeria, but when these new murders happen, he's convinced that she's going to be a target, and so he's just like, look, you can either come with me or you can stay, but I would really prefer you come with me and escape. And Valeria just doesn't, because nobody believes Joona that Ulrich is back, because everybody's convinced he was dead. There was multiple gunshots, there was a match to a missing finger, and then the body turned up, and everybody's trying to figure out, like, if he didn't die, how on earth would he have done it? Which is answered in the book. It's a very interesting how it all comes out, but it's Saga that shot him. It was Saga that shot Ulrich. I'll keep wanting to say Ulrich, it's Ulrich. it's a J, it's pronounced like a like Joona. Anybody else who has watched these will know that I was calling him Joona for so long until I finally listened to the audiobook and I realised, oh, it's Joona, and that completely makes sense. Saga is a lot about Saga, and to be honest, I find it interesting that it's the Joona Linna series, but actually it feels like so much of it does come back to Saga. And in this one, it's a really heavy on her family, her relationship with her father and her sister, Helena? Pellerina, yeah, because her sister has Down syndrome, and so she cares for her sister quite a lot. And there's quite a big age difference because Pellerina is 12, and I'm not quite sure how old Saga is, but I want to say she's like in her mid to late 30s, based on her role, because she's an operational superintendent with the Swedish security police. Yeah, so you see a lot of Saga with her relationship with her sister and her relationship with her father. And nobody believes Joona. Saga doesn't really believe Joona either, but then she's just like, well, Joona's never really wrong. So she starts to kind of try and put things together when Joona takes his daughter and disappears again, which happened in the last book. It's been, was it the beginning of the last book when he ran away as well? Because there was a point when he ran away with his family, then his wife got ill, and then he was just like, I'm not going to let the Sandman, yeah, so it would have been the last book, to get to her. Yeah, so that he allows his wife to have a peaceful death without interference from the Sandman and Yurik, because if you've read along with me, you'll know that Yurik was a twin. And so, yeah, you start to realise that maybe with the deaths that are happening, it's not so much somebody pretending to be Yurik, it's quite possibly Yurik is looking for someone to replace his brother. When you start to put things together and you're just like, oh, they all seem to have some kind of story, because you realise it's not just one person. It's like it's like an audition almost, or an interview, where Yurik is giving a task to people to replace his twin brother, and I feel like I shouldn't say any more than that. But it's so good. It is really dark though, so if you like a lighter murder mystery, I probably wouldn't recommend this. If you like stuff that gets a bit darker and a bit grittier, I definitely think this series is for you. The Joona Linna series is just darker. It's just dark. Best way to describe it, really. But it is so good and it's so clever, and I like the fact that it's not just about Joona. Like, it's called the Joona Linna Detective Series, but you also do have Saga. You've got the female officer there, who you're seeing it a lot through. So I'd say it's not just for boys, not for girls, you know, because sometimes people try to pigeonhole these kind of things. But I'd say it's for everybody. There's so much for people to identify with, whether you do identify with Joona or you do identify with Saga, or even if you don't want to be that kind of, like, I'm identifying with the character, you just want to be entertained. In a darker way. So yeah, I think this lends itself to more like a horror detective type thing. Yeah. But it's just so good. It's so good. And yeah, I completely understand why the TV series has gone down the route of wanting to call it Lazarus. So yeah, the next one would have been The Mirror Man, but as I said, I read that one. That was the first book I read of this series, so I have now got The Spider. This is the cover for The Spider, and I just think that is such a cool front cover. Can you catch a killer, or are you already in the web? Oh. You would have seen the front cover in the blurb section, but if you just want to see it, as I've got it. Lazarus. Everyone thinks he is dead until the murders start again. There you go. I never really thought about the definition of Lazarus before. Yeah, when you look at kind of like the idea of Lazarus, it's the person who Jesus raised from the dead after 4 days in the tomb. So I guess it's referring to the idea of him coming back from the dead. Yeah. And perfect timing that my battery's about to die on me. But yeah, so absolutely brilliant. Really looking forward to reading, not the next one, but the one after, The Spider. And yeah. I am wondering, because I think The Spider is the last one of the Joona Linna series, so I wonder how it's going to wrap up the story, essentially, considering that everything I learned in Lazarus and the stuff that I remember from The Mirror Man. Yeah. So, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time with another video. I love you all. Goodbye!